Hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. Today is not one of our regular life and death cafes. We are going to, let me just do something to this. Okay. Today is not one of our regular life and death cafes. I will be recording this presentation. It's a special Halloween planning workshop to get us into the mood of, being able to talk about death with a little bit more lightness, because today it's Halloween. For those of you who do not know me, have never met me, never attended any of the death cafes that I've been hosting, I'm Nathalie Bonafé, and I am an independent end-of-life doula. I've been a doula since 2016. I'm a former biomedical research scientist, and I've been hosting those discussions, open discussions, the death cafes on a monthly basis for 6 years now, and nonstop every month. I'm located in New Haven, Connecticut, and I'm originally from France, and I have lived in the United States 29 years out of 56, which is a little bit more than half my life so far. A few months ago, during one of our cafes, we discussed the fear of death. And it's not an unusual topic, as you know, for the cafes, because, this is generally the subject we talk about. But it felt that day that a little presentation about what could be done to help minimize the fear of death was kind of due, and I felt like it was a good time. It was in the summer when we talked about that, and I always think that Halloween is a good day to kind of ease into it in a bit deeper. Let me just move the slide. Oops, today's Halloween. Yes, today is Halloween, and I have personally learned to love Halloween. I don't think if I really love, but I've learned to appreciate Halloween because it's an interesting holiday. In the United States, there is a lot of, as you know, and I'm not going to be covering everybody's beliefs. This is not the idea, but why I like Halloween now. I did not grow up with Halloween, so what I like here in the United States, kids and people dress up, with scary costumes, and yes, that's one side of it, and I find it to be an interesting time of year in the Northern Hemisphere. It's getting cold outside. I don't know if I'm in the Northeast, so it's starting to be, chilly, colder. Of course, it's darker sooner, and it's kind of crisp, and it's kind of a wake-up call after, a nice long fall and summer. People don't necessarily realize all the various influences that Halloween associates with. And I find it relevant for this presentation because, we're really a melting pot here. And that's why I love living in the United States. On one hand, you've got the Celtic influences, marking the fall, the end of the harvest season, and the beginning of winter. They call it the darker half of the year. Think of Samhain and the Gaelic festival. To some of you, it's very familiar. To others, it won't be any familiar, but just kind of get the spirit and try to get an idea of where I'm going with this. And it's true that when you look at the North America, the Irish and the Scottish people wrote many of the Halloween costumes to North America in the 19th century. And then the American influence in its turn, took the various Halloween customs to other countries by the late 20th century and early 21st century. So let me give you an example. For instance, I did not grow up with Halloween traditions in France. They appeared when my nephews were young children. So you're talking about the mid-80s, late 80s. And so you can see, how the US and North America in general have kind of spread it to Europe, for instance. Well, of course, Halloween is also thought to have influences from Christian and Catholic in particular. Sorry, I was interrupted by somebody entering the room, by Christian beliefs and practices, or Catholic in particular, with October 31st today being the eve of All Saints' Day. And All Saints' Day is usually celebrated on November 1st. And November 2nd is All Souls' Day. So for instance, where I grew up in the 70s and 80s in France, no, there was no Halloween, but we still has, as a Christian, at the time, at least as a Christian country, I would say, with Christian traditions, people would buy flowers, for their dead and decorate the graves of their loved ones at the cemetery. My mother, for instance, called me this morning and she said, "Oh, we bought more flowers, for your grandparents, for my parents, my old grandparents, and my dad's parents." And this is a pretty sober holiday. And I do think that, for instance, in France, the tradition is slowly disappearing. I've never seen anyone do follow these traditions here in the US, but I may be wrong. Maybe I haven't paid attention, and maybe it's still there for the Irish also, or Italians, or maybe Polish Catholics. So anyway, the third aspect of it, and what I really like about Halloween here, it's also got, the beautiful and happy celebrations of the Dia de los Muertos. And my Spanish is not that great, but you understood this is an annual, especially in my neighborhood, there's a lot of Hispanics and a lot of Mexicans, and this is really a tradition, an annual Mexican tradition that honors the dead, and that is filled with music and colors and food. And this is a tradition of more than 3 millennia to celebrate the life of those who have passed. So in this case, this is not a sober holiday at all. So it's very mixed. So then, here we are. You would think, that in this country in particular, where the day is such a big thing, where everything has been written, pictured, and discussed on any subject in the 21st century, it would be easier to talk about life and death, including our own. And yet, if you look at the statistics, most of us get to the end totally unprepared, and fear keeps propagating from generation to generation. And despite all the beautiful traditions that our ancestors have come up with to ease death into us, on us, despite also the development of medicine, the antibiotics, technology and all this power of communication. So that's really a question. So why is talking about death still so difficult in the 21st century? And I'm going to give you what I believe, what I've believed after being in this field for all these years now. And it's very simple. It's very simple. Being afraid of death is part of being human. This is really inherent to being human. And whether we admit it or not, we are all afraid of death and aging. Some more severely than others. Some will acknowledge it better or sooner than others. And the bottom line is that death has always been and will always be a complicated thing for humans. So let's go down, let's breathe. And he said, oh, and I guess it's normal. Well, yeah, that's the only reason, that's the only explanation that really I have found. I could have given you all the philosophical, reasons or intellectual reasons of why it's so difficult. I could have been, very rational about this, but the bottom line is we are being human and we are sharing this together. So let's see what can be done. Personally, I believe that it all becomes a personal journey and a journey of personal choices. So yes, making peace with our mortality or with mortality in general or our own mortality is really, in my opinion, an individual choice. And there is no right or wrong way to do it if we find that peace, whatever way, whatever works for you is always to be, the bottom line. So yes, making peace with mortality becomes an individual choice. If we want to, we can shift our mindset from feeling sort of victims. Yes, we are going to die. Yes, is she, they're going to die, I'm going to die, to deciding to take charge of our lives and living with more joy and peace of mind and purpose. And that's what I've discovered through these years of working with people at the end of life. I'm sure you have all heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and, the grief cycle she describes in her 1969 book, already 1969. Can you believe it? 69. Okay, so the book Death and Dying. So keep in mind that when you hear of the Kubler-Ross grief cycle, there's lots of discussions around this, and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she established that diagram while working with just not just people grieving, yes, grief, but she was specifically working with terminally ill patients. And I'd like you to really look at grief in that case from the perspective of the dying person, which is literally, each of us. You notice these periods of denial and anger, right? Anxiety, sometimes bargaining, right? Struggling to find meaning, and depression, the flight, being overwhelmed, this avoidance of the subject. Well, this is it. This is what we are fighting. And we all experience these phases in our lives. Think of it that way. We all experience these phases in life, but people who make peace or attempt to make some sort of beginning of peace, with their lives, their flaws, their uniqueness, and their mortality too, find clarity, that's what she calls acceptance. They find clarity for their path a lot sooner. And I really like to look at the problem. So this is a normal problem to be afraid of death. We all have this, but we all know from the research, decades of research and exploration, that reaching the acceptance is what guides in the direction of moving on, whether it's moving on, through regular grief, or whether it's moving on through the transition of end of life. So that's why I believe this is a personal choice. Do we want to explore? And my objective today is to give you some tools to go toward that exploration now, or as soon as possible, before there is a crisis, to get you started. So here are a few things that I've learned through this work. This is, again, not something that needs to be exhaustive, but and I'm not here. If you know me, you know that I hate to tell people what to do. But here are some things to keep in mind. Just be curious. Just be curious in general. So just be curious, keep learning, keep an open mind as much as possible. Even if you're not super well, even if there is pain, etc. So, and one important thing is avoid judgment. Avoid judgment toward others. Avoid judgment toward yourself. This is all normal. This is just your path, right? Be mindful. Appreciate the present moment, because this is important and quite central. Because I'm also going to, in the rest of this presentation, I'm going to take you a little bit like in the past and a little bit in the future as well. But the mindfulness is going to help you stay grounded in that exercise. Be kind and be respectful. Again, start with yourself. Forgiveness is also something that is important to be aware of. Your body, breathe and move. You are alive. You are alive, so breathe and move as much as you can. This is going to help you deal with a lot of things in the present, deal with things from the past. And this is also going to help you live your life. Lastly, in this slide, remember to be social. I've not always been social, but I caught up in the recent years, and it has been really, really useful, because I get to learn about other people's point of view, something that for those of you who attend the cafes have also be able to experience. As I said, I wanted to take you a little bit into your past. So some of the exercises that you can do, at least, start being aware and maybe, look into it if you can, if you know. Look at your past. Think about, I personally like life stories, but those life stories are good for ourselves, they're good for our loved ones, they're good for families, tell the stories. But look back into your family history as well, and your people, whether it's your family now, whether it's your ancestors, where are they coming from, what have they done, what sort of struggles, look at that, because it's really, really interesting how it affects the mind. And then look at your own values. What are your values? What are your beliefs? Okay. Because you're going at the end to have to own your story. And your story is not just yours. It's that of your values, of your beliefs, of your community, etc. And the world. Take care of your body. Be mindful of your body. There are plenty of exercises that we could do, but this is not easy to do that in this presentation. But, just keep that in mind. And yes, this is all because your story matters, and I'd like you to own your story. Like I've started to really do it for myself. So let's talk about advanced care planning. I did not want to do a very intellectual and super thorough presentation about the advanced care planning. My only interest is to get you to just start doing it. Here are some facts. We all hear of advanced care planning. Here are some very interesting facts. And this is all due to the nature of being human, being afraid. So that's normal. But in some sort of, in different sorts of questionnaires that have come around over the years, here are a few ideas. People say that talking about end of life care is very important, and talking with their loved ones, it's very. So the statistics that I have that are circulating is about 90%. If you ask people, most of them would say yes, it's critical. Yet only less than a third really do it. Just talking. Okay. Then in another study, 80% of the people would say that if seriously ill, they would want to talk to their doctor about end of life care and options. And there, from a California Healthcare Foundation survey, only 7% report having had an end of life conversation with their doctors. Okay. Another one is 82% of people say it's important to put their wishes in writing. We're talking about advanced care planning. 82% say it's important to put those wishes in writing. Again, 23% have done it. Do it. So that gives you an idea. And another fear is that, people do not want to be a burden to their families. And that seems to be, fear number one. Nobody wants to be a burden for their family. So, okay, this seems to be so important, yet we don't necessarily do it. And I really recommend that. It seems so simple. People say, oh, I've done it. I know a lot of people, I know clients of mine who seek my support at the end of life, for a loved one. When I start asking if they have advanced directives, they get that resistance I described from the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. They said, yes, yeah, I have it. It's all done. Yet they've never had the discussions, or if they had the discussions, things have changed. Maybe a person has developed dementia, and the thing is, like, sometimes those directives are old. So it's really important that you revisit, and if you've done it 10 years ago or 20 years ago, if your mother or father had done it, just bring it back into the table and do it, every few years, because things do change. The advanced directives, you're going to have that they're all by state. You can find them on the website. Here it's called Caring Info, or just Google the advanced directive for your state, let's say Connecticut or Massachusetts or wherever you are. Get a copy. It's always free. You can also find it on your state website. It's so easy, but yet a lot of the problems that we encounter in this field is that it's not necessarily well done. It's not thought. When you appoint a healthcare representative, and if I take I'm going to use the Connecticut form, they require that you appoint 2 representatives, right? What if one cannot be reached, is on vacation on the other side of the planet, or you just, in a work meeting, or, whom do you really trust? Whom do you really trust to talk and to make decisions about your health if you're not able to do it yourself? There are many, many, many incidences where, my wife will do it, or my husband will do it, or my child will do it, but yet, the spouse is not necessarily in agreement with what needs to be done. And it becomes really complicated for the families, for the person, who needs the guidance, for the healthcare representatives themselves, for the entire family, for the physicians when it comes to, those decisions, and the person is in the hospital. So it becomes, the appointment is so easy, but yet if we don't do it well, it really creates problems in the case of an emergency. And it's very critical. So please, please, please think twice about whom you want, and don't necessarily go for the most logical. And once you do, please talk to that person and say, hey, I'm planning to put you as my healthcare representative on my advance directives. There is no need to worry. I want to do it while I'm well. Do you know me enough? Do you know me enough? Do you know if you know what to do in, and here are the different scenarios that we should consider. So talk to them. So it will contain also a living will, or what healthcare instructions. So usually those forms have some explanations. So basically, do you want a life support system? Do you want some sort of treatment? You need to be able to write it down. So and to explain it, you need to know what you like or what you would not like, and break it down into different scenarios and talk to your representatives about that. Okay. What I in the next slide, I will offer you a more detailed option for your living will. I think it's a lot easier on the other one, but just get started with those forms. There's also going to be a document of anatomical gift. Do you want to give your organs? Why? When? Are you selective? Would your religion prevent you from doing this? Is your healthcare representative or your spouse's religion preventing? Do you have conflict? Think about it. It's not too critical, but it's important, and it's going to be based on your values. Designation of a conservator of the person. This is very important. This is very important also, that the definition of a conservator of the person. People often mistake the conservator of the person and that of the estate. Look at the definitions, and just make sure that you know what it is. Generally, just to give you that specific answer, a conservator of the person is appointed to supervise the personal affairs of an individual who is found by the court to be unable, even with appropriate assistance, to meet essential requirements for personal needs. These needs may include, but are not limited to, the need for food, the need for clothing, the need for safety and healthcare. So, keep that in mind. These advanced directives can be legally binding if people know where they are if something happens. They are better if they are signed by witnesses. It's better if you have, of course, copies to your family and healthcare representatives, but also your physician, your primary care physician, I would say, or your attorney. So this is only binding if you know where your copies are, and if people close to you know where they are, and if they communicated with the medical personnel, if it's in the hospital. So, and always revisit this every few years. I used to have, specific person as my healthcare representative. This, the relationship with that person has deteriorated. I do not wish to have this person decide for me on my behalf if I'm unable. So I revisit, okay? So don't hesitate to do that. This is the first step. And even if it's easy to do, most people do not do it. And that's a problem. There is another form that I really, really like, and I'd like you to I'd like you to consider. You download it. I think they make them pay now. I have copies if you ever needed. That's not a problem. But anyway, it's called the 5 Wishes. It's called the 5 Wishes, and it's like an extended advanced directives, right? Sorry, I think I kept the same link, but Google your 5 Wishes, and you'll find it, or just email me if you need a copy. The wish number 1 is, yes, it's about healthcare representative. My first wish would be, I want this person to make care decisions for me when I can't. And this is what I want, and this is what I don't want. And in that form, you have a lot of choices. And it's a lot more, I have a copy somewhere, and it's a lot more detailed than on the previous form. The wish 2, you also have the kind of medical treatments I want and I don't want. This section is more about assist the living will. So the first wish 1 and 2 kind of are repeating what you've stated in the previous form. So what you would want, what you wouldn't want, and that's important. Not just what you will want. So the wish number 3 is, it goes deeper, and it's not comfortable to talk about this. It takes generally a long time for people to fill out that wish. How comfortable do I want to be? So it means you have to picture yourself in a situation that is just very, very, very vulnerable. And one way to kind of overcome that fear of death is to accept that we are all vulnerable. We all can be vulnerable. And I have found, working with people at the end of life, that vulnerability that we all fear, because we're all supposed to be in charge, and it's the key to finding the peace I'm trying to direct you toward. It's okay to be fearful. It's okay to hesitate. It's okay to be vulnerable, but think about that, really go deep into that. Wish number 4 is also quite interesting, because we all know that life is complicated, especially with family. And how do I want people to treat me? How do I want strangers to treat me? How do I want my loved ones to treat me? Do I want to be touched? Do I want to be home? Do I want do I want people to talk to me? Do I want music? Do I want all of this? And picture the different stages. So that's also a difficult exercise. But here is something interesting. I was recently working with a gentleman, and this gentleman was, he and I totally, like, we worked well together. He was older, I would say. He was in his mid-80s, and he was very honest about his fears, and his questions, and he was very vulnerable. And it's very, very rare to find a person whom on their first visit with me becomes totally vulnerable and is comfortable with that state. They generally feel safe, but it's very rare for them to just do that the first time. And he admitted to me that, his wife had Alzheimer's. He admitted to me that he missed being touched. He missed being touched. And when he ended up in the hospital, and his daughter-in-law talked to me, she said, "Oh, I don't know. He's such a very proud man, and we don't know what to do." And I said, "Well, hold his hand. Hold his hand. Put some cream on his hand. Nurture. He likes to be touched." And she said, "No, are you sure?" I said, "Yes, I'm sure." He told me he misses it. So, these little details, please just think about it. And also put clearly things you do not want. The wish number 5 is also very important. What do I want my loved ones to know about me? And if you're helping somebody else, fill out their 5 wishes, what would you like to know about what this person would love? What would you like to know about that person? Think about maybe helping your parents do that. Also in that section, you're going to deal about forgiveness. Forgiveness, what needs to be let go in order to reach that peace. And again, this is for now. You think about it now, so you can reach that peace and that acceptance level way before you are confronted with the stress and the urgency of having to deal with an end-of-life issue. That is really, think about how would a person, how would the person want to be remembered? Think about the final wishes regarding funeral and memorial plans. This is very important. You will want to really have thought about that. And for that, okay, this is not easy to do on our own, but for that, in my studies, there was a few years back, it came a board game, maybe not a board game, but kind of a game of cards. And it's called The Elephant in the Room. And it's from Caring Choices. personal conversations about healthcare choices. No one wants to do that. I'm telling you, even to this date, I haven't been able to play this game with my own husband. Okay. Luckily, I ask many questions, so we can have this conversation, but it's very difficult. Nevertheless, if you really want to get to dig into this, I highly recommend that either you ask me or we do something together, but we play that game, or you do it on your own. So I think it was like $25. So you have a series of cards. Let me just let me just end the show for a little while so I can see you. Let me see if I'm there. Yes. I want you to see me if you don't see me. This is like a little card. Let me see if I can be in the center here. Blur, remove the pin. Let me see. Okay, no. Well, I'm not finding this, but anyway, let me see. Hold on. I would like to. I'm not really sure what you see. Can you see those cards? Do you see those cards? Okay, so I'm going to show you what the game looks like. It's a series of cards of various colors. Okay, and what I like about this game, it's so the different colors. The red ones deal with the complexity of care. Okay, so let's say I want to stop the sharing. I think that's what it is. Okay, sorry, that's what I was looking for. It deals with the complexity of care. The orange ones are the definition and resources. And I'm going to take, then there are people and places, it's the blue ones. And then values and benefits. And you would say that once you've completed those directives that I just mentioned to you, you would be, through. No, it's not really. Let's see. I want to take one of the cards from the complex care. The question is for you to think about. So it's totally random. You are in a coma and you have pneumonia that may claim your life. Okay. Doctors ask your family if you want antibiotics to treat the pneumonia. What do you want your family to do? Okay. So you need to think about some of these things, and that's what, but it doesn't, you don't have to answers for everything. It's really, then you would have, let's say, consider your current health and activity level. Then think about how your parents or grandparents died. How do you think you would die? What do you think the best, worst outcomes would be? Donald, this is just not a game for the faint of heart. This is not easy, but those things can come up. And here's another one. Your college-age child has collapsed from a medical crisis and is rushed to the emergency room where doctors tell you he is in a persistent vegetative state and will not recover. He has said that he would not want to live like that. What do you do? So, this is very dicey. This is very complicated. I want to take the people and places. Some of them could be also quite juicy. What promises, so it's the blue one, what promises might people ask of their loved ones that could become difficult to keep as health and or independence decline? Sometimes, as death draws near, people see and talk to loved ones who have already died. How would you deal with this? Would this frighten or comfort you? Okay, so you can discuss from patient and caregiver perspectives. We could go on and on. I think this has about 85 cards, and that's very useful. This one isn't from the orange pile. How would you go about planning for your funeral and making arrangements for burial, cremation, or donation of your body? Long story short, and let me go back to sharing my screen. What you do is yours, and there shouldn't be any judgment. Okay, I'm going to turn this here. And see it really as a journey. Say it as a journey. There are going to be many elephants in the room. It's okay. There are always elephants in the room. They're always there. And just learn to live with the elephant. And elephants are actually quite cool animals. But anyway, have those discussions, inform yourself, try to have those discussions, even if they are complicated. On the last slide, I would really like to add a few more things. And again, they look like very simple dots, very simple list. But this is all part of this planning. And organize your thoughts if you can. Write down, set your priorities. Organize your documents. I'm thinking about, your will, your power of attorney. Be aware, and you can ask me, maybe at the end, what POA is, or is this power of attorney for finances, by the way. So those are not about healthcare, but more about the finance and the rest of your assets. But ask me about pulse or molds if you're curious about that, because this is a very, very, very good tool. Most people do not know about them, and they are medical orders. And for anyone dealing with a chronic disease, this is very important, and that could really start the conversation with your physicians. Again, this is all about planning. This does not make us die, okay? Organize your photos and other belongings. This is also an exercise that can take years, can take months, can take, decades even. But think about keeping things in order, because this is about love, and this is about your life. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this is about also self-love and empowering you to own your life, to own your journey. Write or record stories. There are always stories in families. Some are painful, some are funny. Just document them. Also work on your regrets. If you have regrets, it's never too late. Well, it can be too late to reconnect with somebody, or to kind of acknowledge that some things didn't really go according to plan. You could transform the regrets into just more beautiful stories. You could transform your regrets into stories, and I like that about this work. Work on your grief. If you have not resolved some things, it could very well be residual grief, and we are our grief too. We are an accumulation of grief throughout our lives, and it's okay. This is part of being human. So, but work on it with a professional if you can. There are also plenty of books. I have resources, just ask me. If you feel you're ready, and I suggest you try the obituary exercise. It's not easy, but it's a very good exercise to help us, whether it's going to be used or not in reality, you know. But it's a good exercise on how do you want to be remembered? You know, what do you think, you know, people will say about you? Not that you care about what people think about you, but how would you want to be remembered? What's important to you? And let other people, you know, do whatever they want to do. And in the same topic, you know, as I mentioned earlier, plan your funeral. Do you want a classic funeral? Do you want something religious? Do you want a green funeral? Just if you don't know, just read about things and get, you know, kind of curious. And I think that rituals are extremely healing, and those can be discussions with everybody else, and you can make it you can make it, you know, less serious. You know, if you think of the Mexicans, you know, and the Day of the Dead, you know, you could make it over dinner. You can make it, you know, over um, uh, 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 a walk, a visit, you know, something, you know, a group, find that's something you can do. We can also do something in the death cafes, you know, what do we want? And you can also spend time with other people who are younger or older. You could volunteer. One of the first things that I did when I shifted from my life as a research scientist to, you know, the life that I have now as an end of life and women's health and personal health professional, is that I volunteered, and this is eye opener. So you could do that. That's another idea, and most importantly, just think about living your life intentionally. And it takes time. We're all rushing and we all have, you know, our priorities. But when we become more aware, if you go back to the previous discussions, you know, just it all makes sense. And that's all I want to say. I am going to stop sharing, and I'm going to stop recording. And this is mostly for me. And maybe we could have a conversation on the topic. And thank you.